You already know this story. A man, a boat, a flood that swallowed the world. You learned it as a child. 2 of every animal, 40 days of rain, a dove, a rainbow at the end. But that is the version someone decided was safe to tell you. The older accounts, carved into clay tablets, written into ancient scripture, remember it differently. They remember a man who warned the world for 950 years, a crowd that laughed in his face until the water reached their throats, and a son, his own son, who would rather drown than admit his father was right. This is the flood story you were never told, and it begins not with rain, but with a world that had quietly forgotten how it got here. To understand what happened, you have to understand the world this man was born into. It was a world that had slowly, quietly drifted away from what it once believed. It didn't happen overnight. It never does. Generation after generation, people began to forget. They carved their gods out of wood and stone, breathed names into statues, and bowed to the work of their own hands. The old account even remembers the names of the 5 great idols they worshipped: Wad, Suwa, Yaguth, Ya'uk, Nasr. And here's the strange part. These weren't always gods. They were once the names of good men, beloved figures who had lived and died. When they died, the people who loved them were so consumed by grief that they built statues to remember them. At first, it was only to feel close to them, just to remember. But one generation passed, then another, then another. And what began as remembrance slowly became worship. This is how it almost always begins. Not with some dramatic act of rebellion, but with a slow, quiet forgetting. And into that world, a single man was about to stand up. He was, by every account, a wise and decent man. And then something changed him. He became convinced, utterly, unshakably convinced, that he had been sent with a single message. Warn them. Before it's too late. Warn them. So he stood up. He stood in the marketplaces. He spoke in the gatherings. He walked through the streets calling out day and night, trying to wake his people from a sleep they didn't know they were in. And here is where the story stops sounding like anything you've heard. Because he didn't do this for days, or months, or years. He did it for 950 years. 950 years of warning. 950 years of rejection. 950 years of watching people choose their statues over the truth standing right in front of them. Most of us can't stay patient for 950 minutes, but he never stopped, because he believed with everything in him that he was right. But his people didn't just ignore him, they mocked him, they ridiculed him. They pulled their own clothes over their heads so they wouldn't have to hear his voice. And the leaders, the powerful, the wealthy, they were the worst of all. They had everything to lose. So they told the crowds, "Don't listen to him. He's just a man like you. And look who follows him. Only the poor, only the weak, only the ones with nothing left to lose." It's one of the oldest tricks there is. Discredit the messenger. Humiliate the people who believe him. Make the truth look like something only the desperate would fall for. And his answer told you everything about him. He refused to throw away the poor and the weak just to win over the powerful. He would not abandon the people who had trusted him. But every night, when the crowds were gone and the laughter had faded, he came home. And alone, he broke. He said the kind of thing only a man at the absolute end of his strength can say. 3 words in the old language: "I am overpowered. Help me." That is not weakness. That is what it sounds like when someone has given everything they have, and has nothing left but to ask for more. And then the answer came. But it was not what anyone expected. There was no lightning, no punishment from the sky. Instead, he was given an instruction that, to any rational person, sounded completely insane. Build a ship. Build a ship in the middle of dry land, in a place with no sea, no river, no flood anywhere in sight. And he did. He picked up his tools. He started cutting wood. He began building the largest vessel his people had ever seen, and his people came to watch. And they laughed. Every single day they laughed. Imagine being him. No blueprints, no engineers, just an instruction and his own 2 hands. And every day, people walk past, pointing, laughing. Look at the madman, building a boat in the desert, waiting for rain that will never come. And his response? He kept building, plank by plank, nail by nail, day after day after day. And the instruction was clear. When the moment comes, take your family, take those who believed you, and take from every living creature. 1 pair, male and female. The sign would be unmistakable. Water would burst from the most ordinary place imaginable. An oven overflowing. When you see it, it's time. And then the sign came. The oven overflowed. Water poured from places water had never come from. The sky split open. The seas began to rise. He called out. The believers came. The animals came, 2 by 2. And he stood at the helm of the ship, watching the world he knew disappear beneath the water. And then he looked out across the rising flood, and he saw his son, his own son, standing in the distance, refusing to come. And this man, who had spent 950 years calling out to strangers, called out one last time to his own child. My son, come with us. Don't stay out there. And the boy answered, I'll climb the mountain. I'll save myself. He trusted his own plan over his father's. He trusted the mountain over the boat. And his father, with a breaking heart, said, There is no safety today. Not from this. And the wave came between them, and the boy was gone. Sit with that for a moment. This is a man who spent almost 1,000 years trying to save people he didn't even know. And he could not save his own son, because belief is not inherited. It can't be handed down like a name or a piece of land. Every person has to choose it for themselves. And even this man, who had given everything, could not make that choice for his child. The rain didn't stop. The waters rose. The flood climbed past the hills, past the highest peaks. Everything that hadn't boarded the ship was gone. And he sailed. Through the dark, through the howling wind and the roaring waves, with a handful of people and the animals, and nothing else. And then, when it was over, the old account describes something almost cinematic. A command goes out, not to a person, but to the world itself. Earth, swallow your water. Sky, hold back. And the water obeyed. The flood drained away, and the ship came to rest on the top of a mountain, and he stepped off onto a world that had been washed completely clean. A blank page, a second beginning for everything that breathes. After 950 years of warning, after the mockery, the loneliness, and the loss of his own son, it was finally over. So why does this story survive? Across thousands of years, across civilizations that never met, the same flood, the same lone man, the same warning. Maybe because it was never really about the water. It's about what it costs to be the only one who sees what's coming, and to keep going when everyone you love calls you a fool. It's about a father learning the hardest truth there is. You cannot save someone who refuses to be saved. You thought you knew the story of the flood, but every culture that ever told it was really telling a story about us. If this version was new to you, there are more. Stories you think you know, told the way you were never taught them. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, and tell me which story you want next.